is Friday, February 21st, 2020. Welcome to episode 15 of Amnicon Studio. I'm recording on time. Yay! It's been 2 weeks since I last recorded. 1 week since the video was posted because it took me a while to remember how to do all the little things and stripping the audio and all that good techie stuff. So yeah. How have you been? This last week has been fairly quiet for me. The weather went cold and I just wanted to hibernate the whole time. And now the sun's come out, which I'm sure you can tell looking at the window. It's bright and glorious. It's around freezing, but the wind is blowing pretty strongly. I tried going out for a walk earlier today and I only made it maybe halfway before I had to turn around because I didn't have a hat. I have got show notes. I might be going off the cuff. They were very scattered and not a lot to talk about this week because I feel like I didn't do a whole lot. It was just kind of little bits here and there. Let's see. So, first thing, I finished a hat. And this is made out of the Hobby Lobby yarn, the soft and sleek yarn. Pattern is CC Copycat Hat, which I think is Clementine Knits maybe on her blog post. I'll post a link to it again on the show notes, which will be located on my blog at amniconstudio.blogspot.com. So here it is on, and do a turn around. And I am really, really happy with this pattern, with this hat. Let's see, changes. I was able to follow the pattern. I didn't make a mistake on the pattern part. I did opt to try 1x1 ribbing rather than the 1x1 through the back of the loop. And I forgot to grab my other hat, so let me stop this and I will come right back. Okay, I'm back. Here is the hat that I made before, and the ribbing on the brim is true to the pattern, the 1x1 or knit through the back of the loop. And I like how it looks. It takes me forever, it feels, to make it through. And the next hat I decided to make for myself, I decided I would try the just plain 1x1 ribbing. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up. Let's see. 1x1 ribbing and 1x1 through the back of the loop. And now a while back somebody had said, is there really a difference between the two? And somebody commented that they always do 1x1 ribbing no matter what the pattern says. And somebody I know who designs and sells patterns said she always does 1x1 through the back of the loop for the brims on her hat patterns. And I knew there was a difference. I didn't give too much thought just what the difference was, but I think I like 1x1 ribbing better than the through the back of the loop, at least for this pattern. This, when you make it and then you have to fold it over and it makes a thicker brim, I really like how it feels on the 1x1 regular ribbing than the through the back of the loop. And I think when I make my sister-in-law's hat, excuse me, I'm going to go by the 1x1 ribbing because it feels softer on my ears and it feels like I'm keeping my ears warmer. I'm kind of picky about keeping my ears warm when it's cold out, which is part of why I cut my walk short today. because I wasn't wearing a hat and immediately regretted it. And with my sister-in-law's hat, I started it. I got about 1.5 inches on the brim, and I realized that I worked a twist into it and there was no way I was gonna save it, so I ripped all the way back to the provisional cast on. I was kind of sad about that because that was most of my work for this week, knitting wise. For this hat, it was the first time I've been successful with doing a provisional cast on and with the crochet bit, and then being able to just unzip the knitting. Yeah, I couldn't believe how easy it was once I finally got it right. I watched videos after videos and I always thought I was doing it correctly, and this one clicked for some reason, and I am very thankful it did because it just made it so much smoother for me. And sister-in-law's hat is the same yarn as the other one, the Hobby Lobby Soft and Sleek, which I'm really thinking about. Maybe I want to try making another sweater out of an acrylic yarn. I know, crazy talk, but this stuff is so soft, and it doesn't seem to be stretching either. And that was my big issue with the other sweater I made for myself out of acrylic. Love the pattern, but now it starts stretching out, and now it just looks awful. And I don't wear it anywhere except for in the house, and usually only to bed, because it's still really warm, but it looks awful. There's no shape to it anymore. And the other 2 projects that I did this week, because I wanted something really fast to work on, was dishcloths. Now this crochet dishcloth, I know there's a pattern. I'd have to look at my pattern and maybe link to it on the blog if I have the address on the notes, but this, I made a bigger version of this. This pattern I found a couple years ago and downloaded, and it was supposed to be sunflower coasters, and I made it bigger for a dishcloth, and I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Doesn't seem right. But anyways, it's not very big for a dishcloth, so I'm not sure if I will make it like keep it like a small scrubby, or just use it like a coaster. And this one I made a little bit bigger, and I think that will work just fine for it. I'm gonna keep this one. It's kind of funky looking. My stitches are uneven, and I don't care. I'm trying to find, I don't have a pencil to mark my stuff off. But so anyways, that's all that I did the last couple of weeks knitting wise. I did break out the spinning wheel and I got going, and I finished off this bobbin. I had about halfway done, and I've got another bobbin going, and it is about halfway done. And as soon as I get that one done, I'm going to let them both rest and then ply them together. And this fiber it's not around me. So I can't tell you anything about it right now, except that it's really nice to work with. I got it from Paradise Fibers over in Washington, which they have excellent customer service. I contacted them a while back asking about weaving shuttles, and they got back to me right away. They suggested what I should use, and I can't recommend them highly enough. How did I repay them? I bought like two sweaters worth of fiber, which is like 4 pounds, which is a lot. And now that I'm spinning a little bit finer, I'm wondering if I even needed to buy that much for making a sweater for my husband. That's what this will be going to. And the other fiber color, once I spin it, I'll make it for a sweater for myself because I need to make myself sweaters. There's that. Okay, so those are my FOs, my spinning project, and that's it for that part. The last episode I talked about making a sweater for myself, but I couldn't remember what color the yarn was that I had bought. Well, last week I had to go into the closet for something, and I found it. I found it, and it's this beautiful heathered purple, amethyst heather. And it's Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Superwash, so I don't have to worry about shrinking it, I say optimistically. Worsted weight. And I've got 8 balls of this, and each ball is 110 yards. So now I'm wondering if I bought enough yarn to make myself a sweater, but I think it'll be fine. There's one of the things that I heard when I first started knitting is that you need about 1,000 yards of yarn for a sweater, and that number is always stuck in my head, but I know that's not necessarily the case. I'm not that big of a girl, so as soon as I print out the pattern for the February lady sweater, I will start working on this. I need to figure out how to hook my printer up to my computer again. I had to reformat that, and I lost, I don't know, Macs are wonderful until they throw up a little something for me and I don't quite know how to do it because they're so user-friendly and sometimes they're too user-friendly, and my brain doesn't follow very nicely with it, and that's one of those things that's going on right now, and I can't figure out why it won't recognize my printer when it did before. Let's see what else. Kitchen stuff. I've been making a few different things. Last weekend we had Valentine's Day dinner at home. My husband made steaks, and I made all the sides and made a dessert for him and a dessert for me and my son. It was really simple. For us, it was just chocolate pudding. But I found a low-carb bread pudding for my husband that called for almond flour, and I thought I would give that a try because there's nothing really funny or exotic about the ingredients, well, other than the almond flour, but it called for spices and heavy whipping cream and eggs, of course. And he said it was really good. I thought it turned out looking nice. I think that's the first bread pudding I've ever made. I'm not a fan of bread pudding myself. It's a texture issue. But so there was that, and then a couple days ago I decided to try my hand at making shoe pastry and made cream puffs for the very first time as well, and that was a lot easier than I thought it would be, and I'm wondering why so many people opt to just buy them frozen rather than trying them at home. Because there's no waiting for making the pastry. You just make it and then you pipe it out and you cook it and let it cool. And I suppose the hardest part is making the sweetened whipping cream, but everything else is really easy. And my son really likes them too, so I imagine those will be made a lot going down the road. Oh, I got a couple books the Great British Bake Off books from the library, and I tried making a lemon, what are they? I think it's a lemon cake, but it was made in a bread pan, an olive oil cake, and it turned out really good. I don't even think it lasted 24 hours, to be honest. My son kind of scarfed it, and it was a good, dense cake. I'm not sure if dense is the right word for it, but it had a really good texture, and I'm still impressed with how much lemon flavoring came out of just using lemon zest, because I've never done that before either, and that was good. I am trying to think anything else in the kitchen stuff. I don't think so. I'm trying to pace myself. And I'm also really aware of how I'm speaking. So if I feel like I'm saying a lot more ums and double talking. And I don't mean to, but nerves. Okay, so that's it for the kitchen stuff. Audiobooks. I have been listening to an audiobook the last couple of weeks. It was something I downloaded for my husband and I to listen to and kind of chatter about. It's called Feed by Mira Grant, and the author's name was one that sounded familiar to me, but I couldn't quite place it. And then I realized who she was, as Mira Grant is a pen name that she uses for writing for a specific genre. But her first name is Sean Ann, and I don't remember what the last one is. She had I was listening to the What Should I Read Next podcast, I think last year, and they were kind of raving about this short story by this gal. I think it was called Every Heart a Doorway, and it sounded interesting and intriguing and had won a bunch of awards, and I thought, okay, I'll go see if it's available in the library, and it was. I checked it out, and it was one of the strangest books I'd ever read. I'm not even sure how to really describe that one. It was like little kids, they're able to find like little fairy doors or something and like go to other realms, and they just like disappear from this world. And the ones who are unlucky enough to find themselves back in our world, they are like desperately trying to find a way to get back to wherever it was that they were. And there's this home for all these kids so they can learn to cope with being back in the real world. And then somebody was killing the other students. It was just weird and bizarre, and I don't know. I'm sure other people will think that was wonderful, but for me it was not if I had known, I wouldn't have picked that one. So then I'm listening to this audiobook and trying to think of who Mira Grant is, and then I finally realized that she wrote another audiobook series that I had started listening to the first part of that I didn't finish, and that one was called Parasite, which was I just realized I've totally like gone off the track from the book that I'm actually listening to. But Parasite, it's about tapeworms. It's about tapeworms that like you have in your body, and they like replace medicine, and they keep you well and healthy. And I mean, doesn't that sound just kind of gross that, you know, you're putting something in your body like that? Because, but so the tapeworms are starting to develop a mind of their own. Anyways, so the book that I'm listening to right now is called Feed. And the gist of it is, it centers around a brother and sister news blogging team. It's set in 2040. In like 2014, there was a virus outbreak, and as a result, the virus outbreak came out because someone discovered a cure for cancer and a cure for the common cold. However, when those two mixed together, it became a bad thing in that if you die, you become a zombie. And oh gosh, I don't know. At the beginning, when I realized what this was, I was like, I don't know if I want this. But now I'm getting into the story, and I learned that some things, no matter what, throughout history, they're always going to be the same. So it's Georgia and Sean, and they are following a senator as he's on the campaign trail on his way to the presidency. And there's political science stuff. I don't know if there's espionage, but there's betrayals, and of course somebody doesn't want the guy that they're following to become president, and meanwhile there's zombies everywhere. They have the premise of it is that back when the zombie outbreak first happened, the bloggers knew what was going on, and they knew how to save themselves and protect everybody, but nobody would listen to them or take them seriously because they were bloggers. Well, of course, now they're all taken seriously. The news people, they're broken into different categories. Like there's the newsies who are for the truth and for the news, for as honest as it is, no matter which way it goes. Then there's the Irwins who like to go out and poke the zombies with sticks. And I can't remember the other ones, but there's all these different levels and genres of the writers, and they're all in the blogging world. And of course, everybody's super connected via the internet and everything, and people are afraid to go out without protection because of the zombies, and blood tests all the time. Constant blood tests because the virus is in the air, and if you're around somebody who amplified and became a zombie, then there's a lot of stuff that I'm having issue with, but the heart of the story I'm kind of getting into, and my husband's further along than me, and he said that the story takes a strange twist at the end, and I'm maybe 3/4 of the way through, and so far only one thing that I thought might be the case has been correct, and I'm still trying to see if I can figure out what the twist will be before the end happens. So that's what I've been listening to when I'm not watching cooking shows or gardening shows. I've been watching a lot of gardening stuff on YouTube, which leads me into the next thing. My seedlings that I started a few weeks back in the house. Most everything's come up except for a few of the plants that I put in last week, which were columbine and lavender. And I think one more that I can't think of what it is. So I am bound and determined to get the whole starting seeds and having them turn into little plants into the house and being able to transplant them out and all that. I realized this year that I haven't tried to start seeds indoors since we moved out here, and it's been close to 8 years. I might have said this already in the last episode, but when I realized that, I couldn't believe it. I was just kind of really in shock over that one. And how can I call myself a gardener if I'm not starting seeds indoors and getting them going? So the seedlings, they're growing, but they're very leggy. And if I remember at some point, I might take a little video or photo, and if it's a video, I'll try to insert it into here if I remember how, or I'll just take a picture and post it on the blog. Alright, here are my seedlings so far underneath the old light. I've got some chives growing here, some tomatoes here, Roma tomatoes, and back here I've got hot pepper plants growing. 2 or 3 have come up. Over here is columbine. Back here is lavender. None of that's come up yet. I miss having chives in the garden, so I decided to plant a few things of those. And then over here, if you can see them, is my broccoli. Whoops. And you can see just how tall everything is, and things are starting to fall over now. In the back there are habanero plants. Let's see. You can see those seem to be doing better than the rest. Over here are the plants that I started in the mason jars. Lettuce in the back, and habaneros here. The habaneros, I think, look pretty healthy. Oops. Hard to record and angle this at the same time. I'm pretty pleased with how these are coming up, but everything else is looking kind of sad in that tall, leggy seedling kind of way. This was all the stuff that I planted about 3 weeks ago, and definitely not going to get full off of eating this stuff. Like my broccoli. My broccoli came up almost right away, and it's at least 2 inches tall. And you know, it's still got, it's like seed leaves, and it's that tall, and I guess I'm just kind of waiting for them to tip over, because that's what the lettuce did that I started in the little seed packs. The stuff that, the 2 sets of plants, the lettuce and the peppers that I started in the canning jars, those seem to be doing okay. They're not growing, well, they're leggy too, but they're not tipping over, and they're kind of aiming towards the light. The light my husband ordered is new technology to me. It's LEDs, and you know, they throw a lot of numbers out, and some of that stuff, I guess, for the professional growers, if you know what I mean, understand what some of that stuff is. And they tout about how you can have the light so far away from the seedlings when they first emerge, and when they're growing, you should lower them down closer. Well, I tried doing that, and everything was stretching up looking for the light. And I've been doing some reading, listening to a few YouTube videos, and I came to the determination that the light we have right now does not have enough lumens. Which I said to my husband, how can this not be good enough when all these other people have been writing in the reviews that it works for them? Well, I don't know how it's working for them, and if it's working for them, great, but it's not really doing what I want it to do. So I've come to the determination that it would be a good supplemental light, but maybe for like starting seedlings, but not for actively growing. The lumens on this one is like 700, and I've read you need the minimum of 6,000 lumens to grow healthy plants without them growing leggy and all that. So my husband went and hit the internet again and started doing more research and looking around, and now we've got another light coming that is more professional, because all these lights that you can buy online, they all have pictures of pots. So you know the California people, gardeners. I shouldn't stereotype, but I think that's what it seems to be. But it's like all the pictures and all the websites that I was reading, and they were talking about how to get a better cash crop. Okay, I just want to grow tomatoes and lettuce. But so that new light should be coming tomorrow, and I'm really excited about it. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the seedlings that have already come up. I may keep the tomato ones because they still look okay. They're not as tall as the other ones, and they look a little more stocky, so fingers crossed. I'm glad to be figuring this stuff out now rather than in a few months when I'm trying to grow things for real, because these are my practice seedlings. Oh yeah. Let's see, animals are doing good. I let the chickens out, I think it was Wednesday, and I had to corral Shadow and Loki into their space, and so they wouldn't run out of the coop and then take off to whoever knows where. The chickens, they kind of hang out around the front of the coop. They don't want to venture too far out into the snow, but they enjoy the sun, and then they go under the coop and they take their little dirt baths. And I went out there in the evening to turn the heater back on and to kind of check things. Loki and Shadow were out of their space, and I was a little freaked out because I knew Pfeffer was running around loose, and I didn't want him and Thor fighting, even though they're related. I mean, they don't, it's just instinct that they're gonna fight. And they were fighting, and Pfeffer was kind of kicking Thor's butt, unfortunately. But I said Thor's kind of an old man now, so he wants to fight, but he kind of gets his tail handed to him. Meanwhile, Shadow was in the corner on top of a stack of 5-gallon pails. I'm not even sure how she got up there, but she's sitting up there like a little sphinx, just kind of looking at everything. She's like, I'm the queen. Yes, they're fighting over me. I said, how did she do that? Well, and then I realized that Pfeffer was in there somewhere, and sure enough, found him, and I snatched him up and made sure Thor was doing okay, and I could feel Pfeffer's little heart pounding in his chest, and brought him into the house with us, and he kind of passed out on the couch. He was, beating up his old man is tiring work. So, yeah. And now this weekend, the temperatures are supposed to get nicer, as it's been sub-zero for most of this last week, and the sun's out. And if I don't do it tonight, we'll be doing it this weekend. We'll start loading up the incubator, and I'm kind of excited. In about 3 weeks, we'll have baby chicks, and there's just something. I just love having the chicks in the house up to a certain point, and then it gets to be a little overwhelming. Or I should say, when they've been in the house for like 3 months, you know, just constantly going. Oh, so next time I record, I most likely will not be in my craft room, which also means I kind of have a deadline on my quilt top if I want to get it done before the chicks hatch out. Otherwise, I've got to put my sewing machine away or figure out a different spot where I can sew. Oh, which, yeah, I put a picture of the practice piece up on the blog, but I'm going to show it on here too. Now this is the piece that I sewed for the Angela Walters dot-to-dot class. And after I took the picture of it last week, unfortunately, it just kind of sat, but this is it. I guess you can't really see it too well on here, but some point I'm going to get that done. Just not as soon as I thought I would, because time's starting to go by quick. Gosh, it's, you know, almost at the end of February. So that is all that I have to say about that. So, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below, or leave a comment over on the blog, which is amniconstudio.blogspot.com. I have an audio only version of this that I make if you don't want to use up all your data watching videos in the background. And that's it. Till next time. Bye!